So let's keep going, verse 15. And the one who spoke with me had a measuring rod of gold to measure the city and its gates and its walls. And the city lies 4 square, its length the same as its width. And he measured the city with his rod, 12,000 stadia. Its length and width and height are equal. So there's the measurements that we have. It's a perfect cube. Now, don't give me any argument about pyramids, because pyramids do not exist anywhere in God's teaching to anybody in Scripture. Pyramids are always dealing with pagan religions. You go around the world, look at every society that's built a pyramid, it has worshipped a pagan system of deities. This is not a pyramid. This is a cube. So that's what this is. But the measurements are massive, 12,000 stadia. Now, we don't know what a stadia is. Well, let me tell you, stadia equals 607 feet. Actually, in the Greek system, it was 600. Don't think that it's weird that it's 607. Apparently, Greek feet were longer than imperial feet, and so now it's 607 feet. Anyway, how do we know that? Because archaeologists have excavated race courses that were 1 stadia long, and they measured them, and they were 607 feet long. So now we can do the math. 12,000 stadia by 607 feet is 7,284,000 feet. Divide that by 5,280 feet in a mile. That's 1,380 miles. This is how big this city is. 1,380 miles by 1,380 miles. This is a cube that is as long as the distance as it is from here to Seattle. 1,380 miles, and it's that wide as well. So think of an area the size of the United States east of the Mississippi. That's the area that we're talking about. The entire United States east of the Mississippi. But it's also 1,380 miles high. I mean, the tallest building in the world is the Burj Khalifa, and it is barely over a half-mile high. The highest point on planet Earth, Mount Everest, is barely 6 miles high. This is 1,380 miles high in a cube. To put that into more understandable language, though still equally mind-blowing, it is the same height as the Hubble Space Telescope is currently orbiting the Earth at. Mind blown yet? This is hard to fathom. Now, this cube, the fact that it's a cube is important because many theologians have postulated throughout the years that our heavenly bodies will not be limited by gravity like our current bodies are. You and I are very limited by gravity, and as you get older, you recognize as things move south, never mind, moving on. So the point of all of this is that our capabilities that we have and will be vastly different than what they are now. And they point to Jesus' capabilities in his resurrected body. You may notice that he appears with people walking on a road to Emmaus, and then he appears in an upper room, and those are literally within moments of each other, at least in terms of how we interpret Scripture. And you say, how did he move all that space in that limited amount of time? I don't know. But they point to that, theologians point to that and say our bodies will be similar to that. Maybe not identical, but similar to that, and we will have the ability to move vertically with the same ease that we now currently walk. Which means dunking a basketball, not really a great feat in heaven. Sorry if those of you who wanted to dunk in heaven, it's really, everybody's going to be able to do that. So anyway, that idea then means that because we can go vertical, this idea of a cube is even more important. So if it's a cube, then blocks, like a city block that we currently think of as being this flat plane, are now city cubic blocks, all right? And that kind of geometry then blows our mind even more as we see that this makes it possible for all of the redeemed to reside quite comfortably in this city. Dr. Henry Morris, who founded the Institute for Creation Research, ran the math for us, and I say for us because every commentary that I've seen quoted him, but very few of them actually gave him credit for his work, even though they stole it and put it into their commentaries, and I know this because that book is in our library, and you can read it if you want to. Anyway, Dr. Henry Morris did the work for us. He's an engineer, and he said, if we presume that the Earth is 8,000 years old, which would make it a young Earth, he's a young Earth creationist, that's, in case you don't know what ICR is all about, Institute of Creation Research, that's what they're all about. So of course he's going to presume that, and I think he's right, just to let you know, that's where I stand on that. So we can guesstimate, and we have to guesstimate because there's no census data, that about 100 billion people total will have lived on Earth since Adam and Eve all the way through the millennium. Now, I don't know if that's accurate, but it's a nice round number, and it makes the math real easy, so I like it. So let's say 1 in 5 are saved by faith. That's 20 billion people. Now, that definitely seems high to me, but God is great and mighty to be saved, so I believe that, and so shame on me for my doubt in what he can do. Anyway, 20 billion people, that's a lot. It seems like no way 20 billion people is going to fit in one city. I mean, our largest city on earth is what, 25 million? That's crazy, 20 billion in one place? This is a huge number. So can they all fit? Well, Morris says, let's take the dimensions that John has given us. Let's do it even be more exacting in how we do things. That people generally in cities today live in about 25% of the area. The rest of it is devoted to roads and walkways and parks and public spaces and civic spaces and all those kinds of things. And people generally only live in about 25% of the space. So let's only take 25% of the space represented in this cube. 25% of the area of this whole space is used for homes. 20 billion people get to live in this space. Now, given that, how big do you think your room will be? Probably seems like it's going to be pretty small, right? Au contraire, each person will have a cubicle block in which each face of each block will be about 65 acres. Or to put it in other terms, it'll be 1,691 feet wide by 1,691 feet long by 1,691 feet high, which, by the way, 1,691 feet high is taller than the Empire State Building. Do you think you could live comfortably if you owned the entire building? Let me put it this way. If it were a single-story ranch-style home, your home would be just under 2,860,000 square feet. Sorry, that's a lot of upkeep. Nobody wants to sweep that much, but you do have perfected bodies, so just by comparison, if you've ever been in the American Furniture Warehouse, that warehouse is 680,000 square feet, so roughly your home would be 4 times larger than that. That's if it's a ranch home, but we get a cube, which means we get to go vertical as well, which means it can be 169 stories high, and there's enough room then for every person in this city to have 480 million square feet to themselves. This is a fantastically huge city, isn't it? I mean, this is hard to fathom. I suspect that most of us would say 480 million square feet is plenty of space. Just for you personally. And that's only 25% of the space, remember? Elbow room is not going to be an issue. So this is truly a city built for everyone. If we were to extrapolate it out and say all 100 billion people were to go to heaven and be in this city, all 100 billion people would fit quite comfortably. And this truly then is a city of glory. And that's our next point. Let me show you as we continue in this description. Verse 17, he measured its wall 144 cubits by human measurement, which is also an angel's measurement. And all that means is that they use the exact same cubit. So a cubit is this distance. It's between my elbow and the tip of my finger. That's a cubit. Well, it varies because everybody's cubit would be different length. So there's a standardization, which is why there's a rod. All right? But what we can surmise from that is that this wall is 220 feet thick. Now, Babylon's walls were said to be the thickest walls that anybody's ever seen on a city, and they said that you could run multiple chariots wide on the top of the wall, like 6 chariots wide could go on the top of the wall. 220 feet is way wider than that. And you go, wow, that is an incredibly thick wall. Unless, of course, that wall is also the same height as the city, which there's no reason why we would think that it's not, in which case the numbers here work out to being about the same thickness as cardstock, 220 feet thick. Like the image that you get of it being that tall and that wide would be like cardstock thickness, right? So proportionately. So how does it stay up? Well, I'll continue on. The wall was built of jasper. Okay, well, there we go. If this is a diamond and we built the wall out of diamonds, then I guess it makes sense, right? The city was pure gold, like clear glass. Now, I've never seen gold like this. I can't even fathom what that looks like, but that's what it says here. So we've got walls made of diamond, and if you can fathom this, you're better than I am. This is incredible. This is definitely an incredible image. 220 feet thick, 1,380 miles wide. Like, this is just, the scope of this is just incredible, it's staggering. And then the city is of clear glass, which means all that privacy that you think you're going to have in your 480 million square foot mansion, think again. Now, you might recoil at that thought. I'm not going to have any privacy. But remember, in the original creation of the garden, Adam and Eve felt no shame. There was no shame in the garden. And I believe that once again in this future city, there will be no shame. Again, why? Because we won't be focused on ourselves at all. See, in our sin nature, we are all focused on me and my savings, my house, my rights, my privacy. But in heaven, there will be no thought at all of placing ourselves ahead of God or each other. We will all be perfectly humble. And this idea of transparent walls won't bother us at all because there will be nothing at all for you to hide because you and I will be completely transparent in the way that we live. We'll be able to be who we were designed to be, who we really are. And we'll be okay with all of it being seen because our motivations and the motivations of everyone around us will all be completely pure in this place. In fact, I think that's probably our first application of this whole passage. Like, if we have transparent lives, this city being transparent allows the glory of God to shine through. If we truly have transparent lives, that allows God to shine through us. It is our own opaqueness that inhibits God's glory from shining out of us. So think about what you attempt to hide. Is any of it glorifying to God? And of course, the answer to that question is no. Everything that I attempt to hide is not glorifying to God. That's why I'm hiding it. In a broken culture, some people are proud of that sin. And so they don't try to hide it. That's not the same thing as what we're talking about here, though. Transparent purity is what we're seeing in this city. So that's the imagery of gold like glass. And we'll see the glory shining through it as we move forward then in this passage. But first, look at the beauty of it all.